Hello?
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 Oh, hey, how are you?
Hello?
Hey,
Who are you?
who am I? What do you mean who I am? I'm the Gweeb.
Who am I? Who I am? I am. Wait. Okay, so if you're the Gweeb, I'm JizzyJ, and I think we have one other person with us here in this room, which
Wait, who's here with us? Is somebody
I can't
here? Are you
now.
are you just
Hello?
hello?
Is someone here with us?
Yeah, is somebody here with all three of us?
Who is it?
I believe it's our one and
Wait,
only guest, the expert on anthroarchaeopology, the one and the only Vizbi.
oh,
Well,
it's me. Hello.
oh, hello. Welcome.
Hi. Hi there. Thank you very much for having me.
Of
Hello,
course.
Vizbi.
Hello,
We are
Jizzy
very
J.
excited for you to be here today. Why don't you go ahead and give the audience a little background on your professions and exotic inquisitions?
Well, let me just start off by saying that it's really a privilege and an honor to be with Jizzy J and the Gweeb in the flesh. And some of my professions include anthroarchaeopology, which, to my understanding, is a very sort of exotic profession,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been studying it for about the past 13 years now, and it's taken me to a lot of places that I never would have thought I'd be going to in
Oh,
this lifetime.
uh, why don't we to give our viewers here, because it's anthropomorphology is it's not a very popular field of study, and a lot of people don't really appreciate it as much, and that's why we brought you on here today. So we can allow the viewers to get a sense of a first person experience. So why don't you go ahead and give us that first location that you arrived at?
Of course. So, where the first location that the profession of anthrocultology took me was actually to south of Mexico in a village called Sampayaluca,
Mm.
and I spent about 3 weeks there. This was when I was not yet a professional, but this I was like an undergrad, trying to get my hours in.
Yeah, trying to get your credits.
hmm And we discovered a lot of really interesting things there. I met a lot of superb people there.
Oh, really? What kind of people?
There was like a lot of different kinds of people there. There were some people who were old, and some people who were young, and then some people that might have not even existed at all.
Those are
What?
those are the best kind of people.
Yeah,
So if they didn't exist, how did you see them?
I'm not sure if I did, because undergoing the study of anthropomorphology, they kind of want you to take some sort of mind altering um, substances to help you understand the profession a little bit more. And so taking those things, you're not sure if what you're studying even exists at all, even though clearly it does. I mean, we all know of it.
Yeah, and what ways? are the anthrochronology. What is one first techniques?
So one of the first, that's a very good question. One of the first techniques that they teach you that is essential to any beginner who wants to get into the field is to differentiate the anthropomorphic call between an ostrich and a roadrunner bird.
Mm.
Now they're very two similar species. They have the same genus, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
but they've gone so far apart from each other. You know, the roadrunner, for example, is just a little thing with little tiny legs and feet, and that runs across the ground. It's really fast.
Really fast.
Yeah. And then the ostrich, that's such an see what makes the ostrich unique to the area in southern Mexico that I went is that they actually use them there for transportation.
They ride on them.
Yes. They ride on the ostriches to go where they want to go. And so to find out, oh, yes?
Oh, before you continue, correct me if I'm wrong, but there were case studies of flying ostriches from certain tribes in the Mexico area. Do I believe to be these tribes that you were talking about?
Is this okay to say here? Is it all right?
Yes, this is a very safe space where we're very open to all knowledge.
Well, that really fills me with excitement because it is the very same tribe that you're speaking of.
Okay, so now this brings us to another point, and I feel like now at this point you've been holding back on some certain details for the sake of censorship, and I do want to reiterate how safe of a place this is to extract your experiences, and you're not only providing information for the world, but you're changing hearts and you're touching the minds of people. So I want to go ahead and spit anything and everything you've known about flight of ostriches.
Well, absolutely. Thanks again for reassuring me because let me tell you, I've been talking for a few places and the disrespect that I get is absurd, but
It's outrageous.
Yes.
There's,
Yeah, there's a lot of secrecy in the industry that a lot of people want to keep secret, but I think it's good that the public knows about it and it's more well known throughout the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, continuing on with the flying ostriches, yes, they do use the ostriches for flight transportation. They even have this is a new thing that's happening, but they're even looking into transcontinental ostrich flight. So,
really,
Wow.
yes.
I didn't think they could fly that long, but I guess
Well, that's the thing. See, anthrocosaltiologists, what they do is not only are they able to differentiate the calls between different animals to be used for science and exploration and love, is that they can also be used to sometimes, very rarely but effectively, communicate with creatures.
wow.
Oh wow. So would there in theory would there ever possibly be a way for us to kind of auto reverse engineer that and put like a device on an animal and hear what they're saying?
Ultimately, the end game goal for many of us in the field, many of us experts. The technology's getting there. I have to say, the technology's getting there at a fast rate. So I would probably expect to see that in the upcoming years, maybe even sooner.
So in the field of archaeomorphology, is it do you guys like study what are like maybe some common sayings or like common things that different animals have said, or like what each animal says, stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like among birds, like I was mentioning
Okay.
earlier, ostriches and roadrunners. They're birds. They use similar speaking patterns to say what they want. Um, for example, let me see here. So if you're out in the field and an ostrich walks up to you and looks at you and kind of goes like, that usually means that it wants some iced tea.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
usually. Now, if it's raining on that day and he makes that same noise, It usually means it's trying to find a restroom.
Oh, okay. So it depends on the weather. Their dialect. That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
But so what if happens if you don't have iced tea on you?
Well, see, that's the other crucial thing because if an ostrich walks up to you and it's looking for iced tea and you don't have any, what you want to do is go get some. However, the only form of transportation would be the ostrich.
Mm.
But
But
right. He's thirsty. He's tired. He needs
waiting for
to get his strength back. Absolutely. And so
that's like a paradox right there in itself.
absolutely, and it's a paradox. And I'm really glad that you brought this up because this kind of brings me back to the beginning where I mentioned the roadrunner. Now, the roadrunner is very different than the ostrich. It's smaller, super small in size compared to the ostrich.
Uh-huh.
You can't travel upon them traditionally. You can't they can't fly, unfortunately, like the ostrich can. So, what you would do is you would call for a roadrunner and you would tell him what's happening. Say, the ostrich needs iced tea and I need to get him some. And at that point, what usually happens is the roadrunner will fetch its mate and come back. And rather, instead of flying, what it would do is literally, they do this. You can actually put one foot on each one and ride them like roller skates.
Oh, that sounds
No way.
That sounds
Ye-
awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but it's true.
And have you gotten a chance to do this out on the field?
Very rarely. There was one occasion that
You
I
found the
wasn't
iced tea.
it. Yes, it wasn't for the iced tea. We did go through an Arby's drive-through though, and that was a fun occasion.
Oh, okay. Was the ostrich in the Arby's?
I think so.
Okay,
I think it
so
was
they
in
had
there. Yeah.
the ostrich in the they had somehow got through the to the window, and they allowed it to take the customers' orders for a short amount of time.
Exactly. To fully cooperate in an anthropomorphologist world, the communication and teamwork between people and animals has to be, weaved together and
And
peaceful.
and when you encounter that ostrich while you're ordering your food, how close was this to you getting your anthropomorphology degree?
Well, as it turns out, on that occasion, um, after I took the order, or sorry, after the ostrich took my order,
Yeah.
I know I got it mixed up. After the ostrich took my order, as me and the roadrunners pulled around to eat in the parking lot, my professor actually stepped out from the Arby's, and the final test for me from becoming a novice to an expert, and to getting all my credits was how well can an ostrich take an order from me. I'm very picky about my food.
Uh-huh.
I've made grown men cry because they put ketchup on my hamburgers, and I don't want that.
So do you have a specific, like, if you say you're picky, so you have like a set Arby's order that you've had for life?
Oh yeah, of course.
You want to just spit that out for us real quick?
Well, it's definitely Arby's. They have a lot of meat,
Oh
and
yeah, I do believe they have the meat.
they
Mm.
have the meat, yeah. And what I like to get for my order is actually just a slab of roast beef and about 13 gallons of horsey sauce.
Oh, what's the
Only
horsey?
Wait, only 13 gallons?
I know it's only 13, right?
I,
You think you'd get more, but
I expected you'd get like over like 50. You know.
well,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm a picky eater. At 12, not enough. 14, too much. 13 is just perfect for me.
Just right, just right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's yeah, it's not a lot of sauce, but yeah, so when you ordered from the ostrich, that order, and it asked you for the iced tea, what was your first initial reaction? Like you were obviously with your friends in the
Mm-hmm.
cars.
My initial reaction was, oh my god, like, should I order an iced tea and then just give it to him? Like, I don't know if he wants that. I don't know if he knew.
Some quick thinking.
Yeah, and so
I didn't
you
even
know,
think about that. I thought like go to a different store and then bring some other one. I don't need not even think about the
well,
iced tea that they have there.
I wasn't sure what to do either. I mean, it's if you do that, it kind of, if I'm wrong, it's like obviously the ostrich hasn't done that because maybe there is no iced tea there, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So
But
what I did, oh, what's
yeah.
that?
Well, I was gonna say that that kind of brings up like the point where, like, what really defines the getting something from someplace, giving it to someone else. Say you give me like $1 and I give it back to you. Am I giving you $1 or am I just giving you the dollar you gave to me? You know? So
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that one. I mean, it's a question of ownership. It's a question of, reality. What's really going on here in this action?
mm-hmm,
I mean,
exactly.
these are the tough questions,
So yeah, continue with the encounter.
And so I wasn't sure what to do. And so I looked to my friend who was next to me and I said, "Look, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to order an iced tea from this ostrich. And if, like, this is step one, right? I'm going to order an iced tea
Mhm.
from this ostrich. If he can't give me an iced tea, then, you're going to do something. But if he does, I'll just say thank you. I have a gift for you, and I'll just give it back to him. And that might please him. However, if there is no iced tea, my friend who was next to me would get out, walk across the street to the gas station that was nearby, and he would buy an iced tea for the ostrich.
That's a good that's a good technique.
And so what ended up happening is that the ostrich, I'm glad I didn't say it. The ostrich actually said, if I had iced tea here, I wouldn't ask you. So I said, of course, of course. And I at the time I wasn't an expert. I didn't know these things. That's kind of a rookie mistake to make.
Yeah.
Um, but thankfully, I had my friend go and grab an iced tea across the street, and then bring it back. And by the time he gave us all of our food, my friend returned with the iced tea, and we gave it to the ostrich, and he was happy. He was an happy ostrich.
What brand iced tea was it?
Oh my god, I think it was Gold Peak.
Okay, yeah. The only reason I ask is because I've only done very little research on archaeomorphology, but in the little research I've done, I've found that ostriches actually don't like Lipton iced tea.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
just never get them Lipton iced tea. Otherwise, it's a bad scene for everybody involved.
Mm-mm.
So
They tell you if you get lipped in, you better get lipped out. If you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
so I'm glad you brought up the tea because I know I'm not really told you guys. I've kind of kept it a secret part past in my life, but I'm actually an expert in teas and different herbs that go into fuse into waters. You know.
Oh, that's
Oh
beautiful.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, and through my extensive research, I've actually found that Lipton tea has a compound called GHB memory 3, and it basically uh, allows the ostriches to have a longer memory span. Because currently their span is at 10 seconds. Um, so for each sip of green tea, or the Lipton green tea, this memory span goes up by 10 seconds. So that's they're initially getting smarter, and as they realize this, they don't want to have this memory span because they want to be as short as possible to live the best life, if the, as it, you know.
Mhm.
You're absolutely right. That's actually incredible that you guys have both done research into the field. It's really astounding and marvelous. I can't thank you guys enough for your interest in it.
Oh yeah, definitely. We just needed you to connect it now because there's not a lot of talk.
There's
Well,
not
of
a lot of
course, and yeah,
yeah. There's just not a lot of people that are willing to take it a step further and kind of connect archaeopolymology to the rest of science, traditional science, and kind of create the link for everyone to understand that it's a real science and then it's to be taken seriously.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Now, Now you talked about different encounters, and this was by far the craziest encounter I've heard from somebody. But what can you share some other situations you've been in?
Well, before you do that, actually, I'm sorry, but can we? I just want to circle back to the Arby's encounter real quick. I remember you had mentioned a roadrunner. This might be a silly question, but was there a roadrunner involved in this situation at all, in the Arby's situation?
Yeah, actually, the Roadrunner. Now, remember what I said earlier? How we could ride the Roadrunners as kind of like skates, rather than flight. It'd be like a fast form of roller skates.
Mm-hmm.
When we were ordering, we weren't actually in a car. Me and my friend were both riding on a pair of Roadrunners.
So four roadrunners total, or just two?
There were four Roadrunners total, but on my right leg and my friend's left leg, we had a piece of string in between us, so we had more balance. However, of course, when he left to go get the iced tea, he had to untie it, safely get off.
Oh, of course, safety first.
Absolutely, in any field, safety always comes first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Definitely.
all right, yeah, but go ahead and continue with the other encounters that you've had.
Yeah, so this was the next one that I'm thinking of. It came from I was in my fourth year at the Anthropology University, and they had us go to actually Kabul, Afghanistan, um, to for our next sort of research group. And now I'm not sure if you guys are interested, or if you know what kind of animals reside in Afghanistan.
Not sure.
But there are actually, surprisingly, there's a lot of dogs that are there, like in the mountains, just chilling with each other.
Mm.
And there's a lot of hippos around that area as well. And so what was happening, the curious situation is that the dogs, and these are more, not really dogs, they're kind of more like, kind of like wolves, I guess you can say. Since they travel in groups, and hippos, they like to travel together across the land, but they kind of can go off by themselves a couple times. So these dogs were coming. Oh, yes?
What were the name? Sorry to interrupt, but this sounds very familiar. What were the names of these dog groups that broke off?
This dog group was called the Tates Nairobi.
Okay. Tates
yeah.
Nairobi. I remember that reading that in my grandfather's book that was in my attic. He had lots of interesting books, but
who was your grandfather?
Oh, he was just some fisherman back in the 80s. He was a big fisherman, and he kept a lot of books in his attic, and he didn't really tell me a lot about his life, but I've been uncovering it very slowly.
Absolutely.
But,
your grandfather sounds like an interesting man.
Oh yeah, definitely. But whoa, yeah, he was.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the book that I found, now it mentioned the dogs, and I remember reading how these packs, and you said that they're not really dogs, but more of wolves. And
yes.
I've read that these are actually breeds of dogs that became from community houses, from homes that ran away from their abusive or just their too loving families, and got their breeds together and formed packs in the wild and became like vicious and wolf-like. And this was documents of wiener dogs and packs of wiener dogs.
You're absolutely right. And what's interesting, in your grandfather, I'm sure he mentioned this, but in the wild, wiener dogs travel in packs of 8, while wiener dog buns travel in packs of 12.
I did not read that. See, that's the stuff you need to hear.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you're absolutely right. It's kind of like how communal dogs became where they are now. They came from wolves, right? Well, the Tates Nairobi packs, you're absolutely right. They came from domesticated dogs, such as wiener dogs, wiener dog buns, Shih Tzus, Yorkies, and they've kind of, I don't know whether have evolved or devolved or maybe revolutionized their own species, but they are vicious pack killers now, and they are very prideful and very majestic creatures.
I think I'd go with the term final form. Like they've evolved again, and they've come to terms with their evolution. They realize what's up, what they need to accomplish.
Absolutely, I would definitely agree with that. Their final form is definitely at the state that they are in now. Definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, I actually lived in the field for many years, and during my time in the field doing research and just living and trying to survive, and I've come to notice that these packs of wild dogs that used to be domesticated, you're actually able to domesticate them again, one at a time by feeding them the bones of the dead. For some reason, they really like that. Once you feed it enough, it sits down right in front of you like it's yours, and then it just follows you around, and it's just that's how they work, I guess.
No, absolutely. And then, I mean, some cases even say they're so, I mean, some domesticators are so professional that as soon as the dogs sit, some say that a collar magically appears around their necks
Oh,
already.
oh yeah, I've heard that theory. The theory of the red collar.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The masticator.
But what I found really interesting about these pack wild dogs, especially in Afghanistan, is that um, they have this really unique trait, I guess you could call it, that when they're not sitting down and you run really far away from them, they just somehow like appear next to you, like teleportation or something.
Mm-hmm. That's some have theorized that is the connection between the domesticators and the dogs. It's so great. It's like a molecular bond. Very very hard to separate at the molecular level.
Right.
I've seen one time in the park when the lady was walking her dog. That was the trippiest thing I've ever seen. I didn't think it was an actual term. I thought it was just like such in reality, but I guess it happens to some dogs. But yeah, he just popped up right next to me while I was sitting down with some. I was eating a Lay's chips bag, and and I heard like it was so random, but it was like the loudest sound. I was just sitting there. It was so quiet, and it was like, you know,
Mm.
and he just appeared right to my left, and I gave him pets, and then like I gave him the first pet, and he looked at me, and then as I went to go for the second pet, and he was gone.
Wow. So
That's crazy.
yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Trippiest experience of my life, and now that I can term it and coin it, it means a lot to me.
Yeah. Sorry to kind of sidetrack there, Vizbi. You want to continue with your story of these dogs in Afghanistan?
Oh, of course. And any sidetrack, all we do is give more information. That's what we do here.
Of course.
And so yes, the Tate's Magegi dog species that was there, they were coming up to these hippos who were generally reside in the water, and they were actually drinking from their water that they live in. And now these dogs, their tongues, I mean, we brought up the term final form earlier. These dogs' tongues were so powerful that one lick could probably get to the center of a Tootsie Pop. They're so
Whoa.
strong.
Wow.
It's hard to believe, but
I can't even
it's the
imagine.
truth.
Like I can't imagine that. Like if I tried to think about somebody licking it and getting right to the center on the first lick, it's like trying to think about the fourth dimension.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is crazy. I mean, if only one day maybe humans could evolve to that level, but who can tell?
Maybe that's the key to it.
Maybe. Who they're laughing at this field now. Some are, but this may lead to the most powerful
Lolly-
tongues that humans have ever had.
Yeah, they're just licking their lollipops up there, laughing at us,
Hmm.
one
And
lick at a time.
Yeah.
and so to continue, the hippos. This is kind of why we were there. They actually called upon for the anthropobiologist to come there and sort of be sort of a liaison between these two species who are having, troubles with each other. And so what ended up happening was that the dogs were drinking the hippo's water, and there's probably about, there can be upwards to 8 to 26 dogs in a pack, depending on what species they are, kind of how sophisticated they are.
Yeah.
And so you get that many dogs around a watering hole, where the hippos are living and raising their kids. In about 2 minutes, the watering hole will be depleted by about 78%. And this leaves their young open to attacks, starvation, lack of water, dehydration, asphyxiation, and deportation even from their own tribe.
Wow.
Wow, sounds like a very serious matter.
It definitely was. And so, thankfully, what ended up happening was that me, myself, and a few other people, there was another man there named Vomit, and he was an old fisherman from the 80s. His name
I'm
was
sorry.
Vomit.
Did you say vomit?
I did, yes.
Oh, okay.
And
Wait,
Vomit was
Vomit Jank Mankinsons?
Yes, Vomit Jank Makinsons.
Oh my goodness, I went to school with Vomit Jank Mankinsons.
Oh.
So yeah, old friend. But continue story.
I'm sorry. Just as an aside, if he's listening, Vomit Jank Mankinson, he is a brilliant mind, and this situation would not have been the same without him.
Oh yeah,
Vizbi,
shout out Vomit.
What was that, JizzyJ?
Where did you meet Von Jenkins?
Well, he was a master fisherman from the 80s.
Oh my! See, that's where. See, I know you went to class with him. I've seen him in my book, and I know my grandfather has some tassels with him.
Oh my gosh, your father was fishing with Vomit Jank Mankinson. Your grandfather.
Yes, so I never talked about his fishing life, but he's fished with some crazy people.
That's the circle of life right there.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so when we were there around the hippos, they were pleading, begging for us to help, get these dogs maybe away, or even move the hippos away. They just wanted to have a good life. That doesn't matter where they are, as long as they're happy, they'll be happy.
Yeah, and a lot of people think hippos are aggressive, like violent creatures, but they don't want to. They're not trying to harm anybody. They like dogs.
Yes, they like dogs a lot, and which is saddening to see this, because maybe the dogs weren't aware of how much, how fond the hippos were of them.
Yeah.
It was a crazy situation, I have to say. This really challenged my skills as a somnologist.
Mm-hmm.
And so the proposed idea from Vomit was that, okay, let's just take the hippos and push them somewhere else. And that was a good idea. However, there was one problem, is that the hippos, there in their language, somewhere else, the word somewhere else translates to the mouth of a predator. So that was not a good, idea at all. Because they did not want to move into the mouth of a predator. They were scared.
What predator would be able to fit a hippo?
Well, there are many predators that hippos face around the world. However, there is mainly one in Kabul, Afghanistan, and that would actually be the bush-tit bird. Actually, believe it or not, that's actually a real name of a bird. Yeah, it's called a bush-tit. You can probably fit one in the palm of your hand. However, that's just at the adolescent stage of these creatures. However, at full adulthood, they can probably fit inside of a small barn, maybe.
Wow.
Very ferocious creatures. These creatures are highly territorial and very aggressive. They're killers. They're natural born killers.
And they primarily feed on hippos.
Yes, in Kabul, Afghanistan. Yes, that
Mm.
is their main source of food.
Wow, those be some big birds.
And so, We tried to avoid, bringing up the bush tit bird from then on until we looked towards the trees. Now, the
No.
bush tits. Well, here's the thing: the bush tits in other places they predominantly live in trees. However, in Afghanistan, their species has changed in a way. There's not many trees around, mind you. It's mostly desert,
Yeah.
sort of high mountain area, and so these bush tits they lived under the ground, kind of like some
Whoa.
owls, right?
I've heard of those species and they have the ability to dig,
They
which is
do.
not a very popular common bird ability.
Right, the burrowing
Absolutely.
bush tit.
Hmm.
And
They're
I've heard. Oh my God, those are one of my favorite bird species.
Their talons are not the ordinary three-pronged talons that birds have. These talons were actually oval shaped, kind of like spades, to help in their
Oh,
digging.
okay.
And that's why they're called bush tit, right? Because of their shovel-like feet.
Yes, absolutely. Bush tit comes from, of course, the Greek Latin root of ground, and so when we take bush tit, it's supposed to mean the burying bird
Right.
or the ground bird, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, as I said, since they're burying bush tits in Afghanistan, the trees are unoccupied, and so what we proposed was that okay, we will give we had to propose this. We can't decide anything. We're there for the animals to help them decide what they want to do.
Yeah.
And so we propose that the dogs, the Tates Maleki,
Mm-hmm.
they could have the watering hole. And the hippos at first they didn't like this idea. They disagreed until they heard the second part of the deal. Now, the second part of the deal was that the dogs can get the watering hole. The hippos could be moved, potentially, theoretically, into the unoccupied trees in the area. Um, these trees are so powerful in this area, their leaves form makeshift tubs that catch tons upon tons of water. And
Whoa.
as we all know, dogs can't climb trees, but hippos can. And so we're thinking if we can get the hippos to reside in the trees, that can be their new home.
So,
And I'm picturing. I can see it possible.
I
Go
just
ahead.
have one question. So I know you guys probably, knowing you and knowing Vomit, I know for a fact that you guys took this into account. But how did you guys kind of counter that, the fact that those trees have measles? How did you kind of get around that and prevent the measles from infecting the hippopotamuses?
Excellent question.
Well, let me just say, Gweeb, after hearing that comment, I wish that you were there upon the liaison team with us because, unfortunately, at first we did have that issue. The measles. Once the whole deal was done and that we got the hippos to move into the trees, a few hippos were unfortunately they fell to the measles. Um, However, once we found out about this, we returned and we actually had a very civil discussion with the measles. They apologized for attacking the hippos that way. And even the hippos, they said, well, that's fair because, it's a new thing that's happening. People, other
They were
creatures,
civil
excuse
about
me.
it.
Absolutely, they're very civil. And really, all the measles want, it was a simple solution. They just wanted BET to watch in their
Oh,
trees.
oh, okay.
Why don't you go ahead for the audience? Go ahead and describe what BET is.
Well, BET is it's a television program. I'm not sure if it's on anymore, but it's a channel. No, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a channel.
Yeah.
It's Black Entertainment Television. I'm pretty sure. And that's really much all they wanted. They got some good shows on there. I mean, I've seen it a few times, so I was like, that's easy enough. Do you guys like what? You want Dish? Verizon.
So out of all the other networks that they like, so they scrolled through all of them, and the only ones they like is the Black Entertainment Channel.
Well, I think it's part of their genes. It's like built in that they it's kind of like a survival instinct to turn to BET. It's like we need water and food. They need BET.
It's like watching a horror movie for us. We get that sense of like adrenaline rush. Our fear factor kicks in, and yeah, I see where you're coming.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it really is not natural, because I don't think they even knew of some of the other, like, one of Vomit was like, I mean, maybe we can get them like a deal. It's cheaper if it comes with, if the program comes with C. And they were like, they knew what TLC was. They didn't want TLC.
Yeah, no, that's.
And who does, to be frank? I mean,
I can see why they wouldn't.
No, definitely. And so we had to pay a little bit more to just get one package with just BET. But
yeah, we was coming out of.
Oh yeah, but we made the harder financial choice, but in the end, it was definitely the right choice.
How did the hippopotamus or the hippopotami feel about the BET being the only available channel?
Well, they were kind of confused because funny enough, the only channel that they had was Animal Planet, and that kind of scared them sometimes. Some of the horrific things that happen on there, but they were accepting to BET. I mean, eventually they came to love it just as much as the measles did.
Oh, that's great that all three of them could live in harmony. BET, the measles, and the hippopotami.
Absolutely.
All in their tree. Their tubs of water.
Absolutely. I mean, everything benefits from these environmentally friendly solutions.
That was a great deal. That all worked out in the end.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's so crazy to me. I never knew that your whole scenario in Afghanistan with the hippopotamuses and the dogs and the measles was actually what kind of coined the term. One hippo's bath is another dog's watering hole. That's one of the most famous sayings that I've ever heard, and it's crazy to me that it was because of your mission.
Well, I have to give my thanks to that, because what we do sometimes isn't the most glamorous work, but it's the most fulfilling. So I really appreciate you saying that.
Oh yeah, bro. Thanks for going out there and doing the things that some of us can't do in the field.
Yeah, you are very brave.
Thank you. I mean, I talk about this stuff like it's easy. I mean, it's not. I mean, have you guys ever had to talk to a periwinkle mouse? I mean, Jesus, those guys are racist, man.
Yeah, I've heard it's not very pleasant.
No, I mean it's hard to come to a deal with them.
Well, I heard all you have to do is if you give a mouse a cookie,
Yeah, that is a simple solution. So they kind of forget about all the other stuff. They have a cookie.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because after they eat the cookie, it's like boom, right back to being racist again. So it's like it's a lot of cookies you got to give them.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The more cookies, the more racist. The more sugar rush they get, and just the more they spit out.
Yeah, it's really like an endless void of just cookies and racism. It's awful, but I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do, right?
It is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they say.
Mm-hmm.